So you are now a Ghanaian American, and
Wow, that sounds, wait, that's the first time somebody has said that. That sounds so weird to hear. Wow, that's true though.
yes, you're a Ghanaian American, or
Hey,
you can
Charlie.
say American Ghanaian, whichever way you want to say
Hey, me Ghanaian. Me pacho what I say?
Hey!
Me say me Ghanaian.
We are Ghanaian.
Me pacho ain.
Oh, wow. I love it. I love it. I love it. Hello, my name is Ivy Prosper, and I tell stories from Africa and the African diaspora. Today, I am at Volta Bistro, located in Cantonments. Thank you so much, Volta Bistro, for letting us use your space today for today's conversation. If you haven't been here yet, this is a perfect place to come to have a diverse menu, and there are some vegetarian options here as well. So let's get into the conversation today with our guest, Tim Swain. Hello, my name is Ivy Prosper, and I share stories from Africa and the African diaspora. Today, I have Tim Swain. Finally, I've been wanting to talk to him for a long time, and finally it's come together for us to have a conversation, and in perfect timing, actually, because sometimes you never know. Sometimes things work out for the best. He is one of the people who got citizenship, one of the 524 people from the diaspora who got citizenship in Ghana recently on November 19th. It was a historic day, like historic. I want to talk about, let's start off talking about that, your journey and how everything came together. So first of all,
but let me get comfortable, because it seemed like we were just gonna have a nice little conversation.
Okay,
so let me go ahead and get comfortable.
Okay, all right, get comfortable. Where are you from, first of all?
So I was born and raised in a very small town called Houston, Texas. And
he did not just say small town, Houston, Texas.
It's a very small town called Houston, Texas. A lot of people never heard of it. No, I was born and raised in Houston, specifically Missouri City, Texas. And I lived there most of my life, went to school there, and visited other places. And then before moving to Ghana, though, I lived in the central part of the U.S. In a place called Indianapolis, Indiana. So lived there for 7 years.
You lived in Indianapolis?
Oh, yeah. In the freezing cold for like 7 years before moving to Ghana.
Wow. Wow. We had some family friends who lived in Indianapolis. Yeah, really? So just outside.
I may have met them. You know, you never know. I may have come across them, and who knows?
Yeah, you never know. So what made you even think about coming to Ghana? Was Ghana the first African country you ventured to?
It was. The short version is, a long time ago, I was a part of like this college organization called the Impact Movement that focused on communities of African descent. It's a Christian organization, and then they had a mission trip coming to Ghana. And I was at a conference one day, and they were like, "We're going to Ghana." And all I heard was like Ghana, Africa. I didn't know what we was gonna be doing. I'm like, I gotta be there. And so we actually raised money, and I remember raising about like, I think it was like $3,500 or $3,800. It was back in 2006, and we were here for 7 weeks, and we traveled all around the country. It was like village life. So it was like all around the country, the villages and stuff. And I didn't know nothing about Pan-African history in terms of Ghana. But that was my first exposure to the continent. There was two things from that trip that stood out. The first thing was, you know, a lot of times we surmise Dr. King's life to this I Have a Dream speech. But in that speech, he talks about, one day I envision a life of my children will be judged based on the content of their character, not the color of their skin. The first time I ever experienced that feeling is when I came to Ghana. The second thing is, I remember feeling like I had been, you know, lied to, because when I got here and I saw the innovation, the creativity of people who look like me and just have conversations with people, I was like, yo, there's a deeper history that's much more extensive than slavery, and then extends beyond even the present day struggles that we see. And after that, I was coming back and forth for years.
So after coming back and forth for a few years, when did you have that moment of clarity to say, you know what, I think I'm going to actually come and live in this country with my family?
It was several things that led up to that, but I would say one of the most like salient kind of ideas in my mind was after we had a child. And you know, in my mind, I had accomplished the middle class American dream. You know, good job in a nice neighborhood, had a little pool, small little lake in my backyard and all that kind of stuff. But then when I looked at my son, I asked myself, like, what kind of experiences do I want him to have? And to be very transparent, it was like, I know what it feels like to grow up as a black man in society with multiple degrees, with a good job. And at the end of the day, the first thing that people see is the color of your skin.
Yeah.
And I kept going back to those memories of Ghana where, you know, we could talk about the issues later, but the main thing in Ghana is that you are a human being first.
Mm-hmm.
And that feeling, right, is a liberating feeling. And I said that I have to create a world in which, like, as a father, as a protector, as someone who's raising a new generation of, I don't know who God is going to allow this young man to be.
Mm-hmm.
But I do know that if the most salient idea that he has about himself is, I am a black fill in the blank,
mm-hmm.
that can be damaging psychologically.
Yeah.
So that was probably one of the major things, you know, thinking about the legacy and thinking about him.
Okay. And so once you arrived here, what kind of work were you doing? Because a lot of people come and they don't have a plan, and then they're just like, oh, you know, oh shoot, what did I do?
Yeah.
Like, did you have an action plan?
Listen, I am a planner. So this conversation started happening. You know, we started having these conversations as a family, I think in 2016 or 17.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't until 2019 when they came to fruition. And when I'm talking about planning, I'm talking about everything in terms from, like, you know, financials, mental wellness, hospitals, you know, because I also came here to go to school. I did a master's program here.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I did.
Where? Which school?
So it's called Akrofi Cristala Institute of Theology. It's in Akropong.
Okay.
And so I focused on African Christianity from the African, so really looking at it from the African perspective.
Interesting.
Yeah, looking at really just the stuff that you don't normally hear about in traditional theological kind of institutions, really looking at all these different things. And so a part of it was me coming here to go to school too. But no, I believe in planning. We plan everything down to the detail. Everything didn't go according to plan, but we had conversations. I'm talking about everything from, like, calling up the lawyers. We're moving. What are the implications for our will, our power of attorney, like all these, like that's the kind
really
of
plan.
No, for real.
Who don't do that.
No, for real, because, like, I believe that, and I've talked to a lot of people like you have, right, where some people have whatever their motivation is, whether it's frustration or whatever, or they feel the Most High has called them to a place. But listen, you got to have a plan, because if you don't have a plan, then you really are, I don't believe you're stewarding whatever opportunity you have, because it's not about you, right? And if you don't do it in a way that makes it sustainable, and I'm not saying life don't happen to us, because we all know that does happen. But no, listen, we planned for real.
That's good. That's good. So you're here, you landed. What kind of work are you doing while you're here?
Yeah, so we have a nonprofit organization. The name is Anidaso. You know, it means hope. Hope 360. So Anidaso 360. We focus on spiritual culture, professional development. The two main things we do is coaching immersion programs. So we bring people from the diaspora to Ghana. So we have all the tourism, and so we also focus on leadership development by introducing these Africans to other Africans so that they can have conversations that are transformative. The second thing we do is partner with youth to teach skills that create a skill set of entrepreneurship, so people can learn how to create jobs and have a foundation of character. So we focus on biblical character. So, like, even things like, right, in our context, what do you do when you're the big man who has all of these businesses and you can pay your employees pennies, but how can you infuse character education to say, maybe I can pay them pennies and have this bigger profit, or maybe I can pay them a livable wage, but we still can do well as a company? What do you do in the face of corruption, adversity, and like those kind of things?
Yeah.
Because, you know, you can get the money, but then what do you do when you have the money and the leadership and the opportunity to impact somebody's life?
That's really good.
So we focus on those things. We're mostly focused in the central region, but we're looking to bring some of our youth programs to Greater Accra as well. Great.
And then you are constantly doing things that is impacting the community through that. I want to know what is like one story that is really memorable for you, for you know, some of the young people that you've impacted. Is there anything that's really resonated with you?
Yeah, it's a story that I think about. I get teary-eyed when I think about it, because I think that sometimes we don't recognize the impact that we can have, especially when you're in the midst of the struggle. We're in Ghana, so sometimes you're like, you just be upset.
Yeah, Ghana's not as easy as people think.
And you know you're on purpose, but you can lose sight of that. So anyway, I remember when we were doing we did like a community assessment in the central region. And one of the things we found out was like, it wasn't really youth, but it was a community. And so like one of the things that was needed was like this cornmeal. Cause you know, the ladies are carrying like, you know, maybe 20 or 30 kg on their head of corn, you know, maybe like 10 miles or I don't know how many kilometers that is, but it's a long way. And after this community assessment, we realized that, okay, if we partner with this church to raise this amount of funds in that community and then do this, whatever, we can put one in the middle of the community where we can reduce the commute time and the money they were paying, right, to get this corn, you know, processed and stuff, that can go back into the community and back into like the children's lives, because the church was also taking care of these kids. And so I remember the day of commissioning, like, where we bought the thing, everybody came together to like build the structure that the cornmeal goes into. And when we commissioned it, it was, actually, I get teary eyed because it makes you realize that we raised this money from the States. I think at the time it was like $5,000 or $4,000, which in the big scheme of things, that's not a lot of money. But to see the level of impact that can have in that community. Yeah. You would have thought that we had built a 5-star hotel or something. And I think it was that moment where it was a reminder. I feel like God was just constantly reminding me of like, yo, you can always have an impact. It don't have to be this big gargantuous 50 million, but like this small thing can change somebody's life. And yeah, so that's one story.
That's beautiful. That really is. And you continue to do a lot of things to impact the community. I've learned that you're doing a run.
Yes.
You're doing a 400 kilometer, or is it 400 miles?
400 miles. So that's about 640 kilometers. Yeah.
Is it 640 kilometers?
Something like that.
I thought it was like 700.
The conversion be off for me. You know, America,
I think it's supposed to be two. I think it's supposed to be two.
It's like 1.6. So all I know is a 5K is 3 miles.
Okay.
So.
Okay. All right. So anyway, you're doing 400-mile run.
Yeah.
And where are you starting it?
Yeah, so it's a run walk because I am older. Because if I tried to run the whole thing, I wouldn't make it. Y'all will find me somewhere in between Salaga and Elmina on the road, passed out. But no, so we started Salaga Slave Market because, you know, Salaga Slave Market was one of the most significant historical sites during the transatlantic. And we start there because there's so much history. We'll pass through Kumasi and some of these areas, and then we'll stop. The two other areas that we'll stop at will be Asim Manso, or the Last Bath, and then Elmina Castle. Okay. Yeah.
And for those watching who don't know, the Salaga Slave Market is in the northern part of Ghana, in the Savannah region. Yeah. And it was one of the places where people who were captured enslaved Africans were bought and sold in that particular community. And it's a place that a lot of people don't know about, and they don't visit when they come to Ghana. They've recently refurbished the whole site. So people, if you ever come to Ghana, you should check it out. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I'll be there in about 2 days, so I'll see what the refurbishing looks like.
Yeah.
I'll shoot some video of it.
Yeah.
But the thing is, that's the thing about Ghana, right? Like, there's so much history that's here that you can literally go and touch. Like, there are literally chains from that time that are there.
Yeah.
There are artifacts, there are historical artifacts that are there. When you go and you see the wells that were built for the enslaved Africans to drink from, they are still there. People draw water to this day from those wells. And you can read about it in a book. You can go get your PhD and all this kind of stuff, but it is nothing like an experiential moment. When you see that, you smell it, you are in that environment. And I think the biggest thing too is when you hear the stories of people who are descendants of, you know, this historical event that have happened, and you hear the other side of the story, not just the side of the story that comes oftentimes for us as African Americans. We just tell our story over and over to ourselves. But we don't hear about this side of people who have had families ripped apart, who are still waiting, right, for somebody to come back that's never going to return. And to go and see that and experience it is transformative.
Yeah, it really is. What made you decide to do this run walk?
Yeah, it's a run walk. So what made me decide was I've really had a passion for running a long time. And like, actually, I'm gonna say this, I ain't never said this to nobody. So this is really the truth. I identify as like a believer. So many of us like just not taking care of ourselves. Let me not go in on nobody right now. And I was like, and also as a Black person, I saw like, I didn't see a lot of us doing physical things that made a difference, like for somebody else's life, not for ourselves. Like, oh, look at me, I'm so bad, I've run 1,000,000 miles. But like, can I use the gifts that God has given me physically to go and impact somebody else's life? So I've been running for a long time. And then when I got to Ghana, the truth is the need is everywhere. Like, I cannot sit comfortably knowing that I have a lot of different pockets of privilege and not do something about what I see. And because we've already been able to build somewhat of a program and a platform to help youth, let me take the passion for running and for doing hard things. Let me do something that is really crazy. And let's see if we can just help some people in the process and inspire some people to find whatever their motivation is for, like, why do you run? I put that in quotes, whatever it is, painting, drawing, content creating, but that thing that you do that helps somebody else. Like, if at the end of this process, when I reach Elmina, you watch what I've done and you're inspired to go and do something that helps somebody else's life, that would be the biggest reward for me.
Wonderful. And you're going to be raising money on the way?
Yes. Yes. So raising funds for that nonprofit organization I just told you about. There's a few initiatives. I'll say the biggest one that I'm really excited about is we're taking our program to Accra, where we're launching this innovation hub, where we're really, really drilling down on entrepreneurship, character education, and project management skills. If we can empower our youth with those skills, where they learn how to create income for themselves, and again, have a foundation of character that enables them to withstand some of the craziness that sometimes our environment and life can bring, then they're just going to be the leaders who shape our society in different facets of careers and everything else.
Fantastic. I want to backtrack to the beginning of our conversation when we were talking about the citizenship. Now that you're a citizen of Ghana,
yes,
is it going to help you do some of these things that you're doing easier? Does it make it easier? Does it help you in the connectivity? Like, what is it going to help you with?
That's a very nuanced question, Ivy. It really is. You want the real answer, or you want the nice YouTube answer?
Whatever you're most comfortable with.
I'll say this. For somebody like me who has been here for a while, it will, yes, enhance different things, but it won't. The biggest thing it'll do is grant access. It will open up some doors. That's what it will do. Now, those doors may not have been closed to me prior to citizenship. I may have had to bang a little bit harder, but those doors aren't necessarily closed. The biggest thing I think it does for me is it enables my family now. Like, there's nobody in my family that got dual citizenship nowhere. And then on the continent, that's historical in itself.
It's historic.
Like, that's rewriting history in my own family. My son told me, he said, Daddy, I don't want to be a Ghanaian. I said,
why?
Because when I told him about this, the ceremony, I said, why, son? He says, he didn't have legitimate reasons. Like, no, really, it's because, he has a dual identity. He goes back and forth, our families in America. And I said, son, you don't have to choose between this and this. And he said something at 8 years old that was actually profound. He says, Daddy, I realize I am what I am. I said, wow, that's true, son.
Wow.
You don't have to choose. You are what you are.
Yeah.
But I think being able to open up those doors, even just having an ECOWAS passport to be able to travel to different places in the continent. And I will say this, when people, I'll say this and I'll be quiet about this. Like, when I travel to different countries, I realize that we don't know enough about each other.
We don't.
Like, as an American, you may hear me and say, oh, yes, I know that he's at least raised in America or something because of the accent. When I go to these other countries and they say, where are you coming from? Ghana. They just assume that I'm Ghanaian. So there's even a different level of relationship that I have with them when they assume that, oh, you're from Ghana. Hey, Ghana, this, Ghana, that. We love Ghana, blah, 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 blah. It's a different reaction when I say I'm from America.
Wow.
It really is, at least in my experience.
Yeah.
So I even think just those kind of transcontinental relationships are shaped differently when you have this other kind of part of your identity that is a little bit more solid.
That's beautiful. You don't have to choose. I'm thinking about what your son said.
Yes, you don't have to choose. We are, and I think so many of us, I think sometimes we just project our own insecurities on others, right? Somebody who may, and I've heard this a lot of times from my Ghanaian friends who are born in Ghana. They've been raised, for example, in the States, and they come back to Ghana. People say, oh, this boy guy. You know, you're not Ghanaian enough. You're not this enough. And they have this identity crisis, and I understand it. You go to America, you're dealing with blackness for the first time because, you know, you have to be put in this box. But the truth is, you are what you are. And you don't have to choose.
Yeah. You don't have to choose. Yeah. So you are now a Ghanaian American. And
wow, that's the first time somebody has said that. That sounds so weird to hear. Wow, that's true though.
Yes, you're a Ghanaian American.
Hey,
or you can say American Ghanaian, whichever way you want to say.
Hey, me Ghanani. Me pacho what I say?
Hey,
me say me Ghanani.
We are Ghanani.
Me pacho ain.
Wow. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. You know, it really warms my heart because I was born here and I grew up in Canada, and I spent some time in the US, a lot of time in the US, being 15 minutes from the New York State border. And one of the things growing up was people never really had this high level of regard for Africa or Africans. So we always didn't really mention it as much as people do now.
Yeah.
And so to have this like full circle moment of people now being like proud and happy and interested in the continent is really, really a great feeling and great to know that people like yourselves are making this commitment, making this journey, and inspiring others to do the same. Now, I want to wrap up. First of all, what is something that you would tell somebody who may still have some apprehension about coming to the African continent to encourage them to actually take the chance?
That's a really good question. I think know that the apprehension is legitimate, you know, based on maybe what you've been taught. And I would say, you know, visit. People say, where to visit? Visit Ghana. Ghana's a great entry gate into the continent, especially if you're coming from the States or you're coming from North America, Canada, and the States. It's a great entry gate. And there's so much content now that honestly, we have no excuse.
Yeah.
All you gotta do is go to YouTube
and see so much.
Life in Rwanda, life in South Africa, life in Ghana.
There's so much now.
That's really no excuse. The content has really exceeded
what it was before.
Yes, there's so much content.
Yeah.
I mean, TikTok, everything, restaurants to go to in wherever you want to go. Like, so there's really no excuse of like not knowing. And yeah, so I would say the first step is just go on YouTube and just binge watch any country you're thinking about going to in the continent. I'm sure there's content on it because there's like 1,000 content creators out here.
It's true.
And yeah, I mean, come. And I really believe that, especially if you come to a place like Ghana, especially if you're a person of African descent who was born and raised in a place like America, I really do believe there's something spiritual about coming back to the continent. That's indescribable. It's not rational. I know there's a lot of smart people who've done research on it, but there's something that happens when your spirit comes here and connects.
It's true.
For real.
Yeah.
It really is.
I believe it. I believe it. And then finally, how can people support you with the run and with your organization?
Yeah, so listen, the main thing we're looking for right now is, listen, folks who want to give. All the information I'm sure is right there in the description below. But the title of this project is called Black Star 400. It's spelled exactly where it is, BLACKSTAR, one word, then 400. And it's blackstar400.com. Or if you just simply go to Google, you type in Black Star 400, everything will pop up, and you'll see ways to support there.
Great. Awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time out today. Fellow Ghanaian.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, no, thank you as well. Your content has been so inspiring for a lot of us. Even before moving to Ghana, I watched you on YouTube, and you were one of many people that really provided real information. I remember you really specifically talking about, I want to keep it real with you guys, and sharing some of the sides of the story that people need to hear, but they don't often hear. So thank you for that as well.
You're welcome. And thank you for watching. I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for watching. As you heard, you can support him. I've put the things on the screen and in the description box so that you can support his cause, Black Star 400. And also, if you're thinking about moving to Ghana, I have a book, Your Essential Guide on Moving to Ghana. The link will be in the description so that you can pick one up. You can get a hard copy or you can download the soft copy off of Amazon. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.